Tonight I ordered a targeted military strike on the airfield in Syria from where the chemical attack was launched.
Breaking news at this hour, the U.S. launching military airstrikes in Syria. The very latest information from our partners at NBC News as President Trump takes military action in the Middle East. Plus,
right now on NBC Boston tonight, your early warning weather forecast. While I track the rain moving out of the area,
we're bringing you live team coverage from inside the storm.
You'll know exactly what's going on in your neighborhood as the threat of flooding increases by the minute.
NBC Boston Tonight starts right now. We want to begin with that breaking news. Big breaking news this evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Phil Lipoff.
And I'm Shannon Miller. Welcome to NBC Boston Tonight. Just a short time ago, President Trump approved the launch of more than 50 Tomahawk cruise missiles at a Syrian airfield.
NBC Boston's Joy Lim-Nakran joins us live from the newsroom with the latest. Joy?
So, Phil and Shannon, here's what we know right now. The U.S. military launched 59 Tomahawk missiles. Those missiles hit an airfield, which the U.S. believes Syrian President Bashar al-Assad used to launch a deadly chemical attack on Tuesday. The missiles hit aircrafts and infrastructures, including the runway. No word on any casualties yet, but one U.S. official told NBC News the Russians were warned ahead of this strike. President Trump speaking from his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida about the attack just a short time ago.
It is in this vital national security interest of the United States to prevent and deter the spread and use of deadly chemical weapons.
The president also pointed to this attack and others like it as the source of the refugee crisis affecting Europe and the U.S. Tonight, we spoke to Boston College political science professor Peter Krause to get his reaction.
Most Americans said don't intervene in Syria, but if there were chemical weapons attacks, that support actually doubled or even tripled. So in that sense, him turning on a dime there, not entirely surprising. And then in terms of what actually happened, doing these kind of limited Tomahawk cruise missile strikes, that was also similar to what the Obama administration had kind of talked about or signaled that they were going to do.
And we told you here on NBC Boston, at least 100 people were killed in Tuesday's attack. At least 24 were children. And again tonight, the headline, the U.S. has launched nearly 60 missiles on a Syrian airfield. We'll continue to follow the breaking developments. Live in the newsroom, Joy Lim-Nakran, NBC Boston.
All right, thank you, Joy. And NBC Boston, Susan Tran joining us now in the studio.
Susan, you're tracking the conversation online around the Syrian airstrikes. What are politicians, the public, saying at this hour?
Syria is the hot topic tonight as we continue to monitor it. It is the hot topic across the country, and you can look right here. This is a real-time monitor as Syria becomes a trending topic on Twitter. And all across the area, you can see there's spots of red. That is where it's being talked about most. It's places like California, Florida, and right here in New England. Now, we're hearing from our local representative, Seth Moulton, who said that POTUS cares enough about the Syrian people to launch 50 Tomahawks, but not enough to let the victims of Assad find refuge and freedom here. Then from Arizona's senior Senator John McCain, who posted POTUS's strike in Syria sends an important message that U.S. won't stand by as Assad, aided by Russia, slaughters innocent Syrians. Syria is the #1 trending topic right now, and we're continuing to monitor social media for reactions from our local representatives. And if you want to follow along, you can make sure to check in with the hashtag of NBC Boston. That's the very latest live in the newsroom. Susan Tran, NBC Boston.
All right, Susan, thanks. And we will, of course, follow the U.S. missile strikes against Syria. Be sure to tune in to NBC Boston today, beginning at 4:30 a.m., followed by the Today Show for the very latest overnight developments. And now our other big story. 6 rivers are at or near flood stage at this hour after today's storm that hammered our area. They are the Taunton, Assabet, Sudbury, Nashua, Shawsheen, and Concord rivers, and we have live team coverage.
Meteorologist Chris Gloninger and our Eli Rosenberg will both give us a first-hand look outside, but right now we want to begin with meteorologist Pete Bouchard here in the studio. Pete?
Phil, Shannon, yeah, the rain is stopped now. We still have some downpours up across northern New England, but for all intents and purposes, we're coming out of this okay, although rivers and streams still running high, and we mentioned the rivers that we're watching, and a flood watch is still up. Where are the showers? Far offshore and back into western Massachusetts. Thunderstorms, too, lightning in the distance, but not coming our way, thankfully. We get a break here. There's been some fog, and there will be some fog for the night tonight, and temperatures are close to 60 degrees right now down through Marshfield. But we'll see it settled back, of course, back into the 40s to near 50 degrees in Harketh. The sun is back tomorrow. We'll talk about that, a warm up and drier weather. Stay tuned.
Looking forward to that. Pete, thank you. Now let's go northwest of the city, about 25 miles to Billerica, where residents are bracing for flooding.
NBC Boston meteorologist Chris Gloniger joins us live. Chris, we've seen you sort of up to your ankles tonight in water. Are you seeing any major problems out there right now?
Phil, Shannon, we're on Elsie Road in Billerica, and residents along this road are dealing with flooding, and you can see it right here. This is a homeowner's backyard that actually extends about another 20 feet behind me. And I put this cone here as a marker, and you can see the water is now past the cone. So it's come up about 6 inches in the last, I'd say, half hour, 45 minutes. But I want to take you on a little bit of a tour because there's a vacant lot next door. This homeowner's on a high point, and that water is making its way through that vacant lot back into the side yard and now onto Elsie Road. As the water levels continue to rise, you can see the forecast for Lowell. Even though Lowell is north, it's actually upstream, and that river is continuing to rise to minor flood levels, and residents here expect it to continue to climb overnight. In fact, we just spoke with a police officer a short time ago, and he said the highway department will likely be closing down Elsie Road within the next 24 hours as these floodwaters continue to go up. Reporting live in Billerica, meteorologist Chris Gloniger, NBC Boston.
All right, Chris, thank you. NBC Boston's Eli Rosenberg joining us now live from Maynard tonight. And Eli, just like Chris, you've been outside for most of the afternoon, much of the night. Are you seeing any flooding where you are?
Yeah, we had some heavy rain move through tonight, not what those who live along the river here wanted to see. Speaking of the river, let's take a look right now. Not normally a whitewater rapid. That is why these homeowners are anxious tonight.
Can't tell now because the water's so high.
Mark Jewell surveying his yard, keeping a watchful eye on the Aspet River in his backyard.
This is probably twice the width right now.
The river started creeping up yesterday and more today. 8 to 10 to 12 inches from lunchtime to dinner time as the rain continued to fall.
It appears to me to be a bit higher than it was yesterday. And certainly with all of the rain that we've gotten today, I think that we'll get a good deal more.
In late August, you can walk across that and not get your ankles wet.
Jim Ryle has seen it all. He's lived on the banks of the Aspet for 5 decades. Nothing surprises him, he says, but as the normally placid river turned into whitewater rapids of sorts, he took notice.
I get prepared. I put the pumps in. I pick the stuff up off the floor, you know, stuff we've collected over 50 years.
Life along the river, normally quiet, until it's not.
My fingers crossed it's doing pretty good, so hey, what are you gonna do? It's life, you know.
So I checked in with police and fire today. They are monitoring those flood-prone areas as well. Those who live along the river here, checking their basements almost hourly. Everybody watching this river and waiting. Live in Maynard, Eli Rosenberg, NBC Boston.
Eli, thank you. Now to a developing story out of Dorchester. Police are still trying to find whoever opened fire, hitting a staff member inside a school there. Happened around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Police tell NBC Boston a man was hit by bullets that went through a wall at the college-bound log school.
Looking at ballistic evidence, 4 shots, we believe, went through the clapboard. 2 of them hit him, 2 of them missed.
Police have not yet released the identity of that victim, but they do tell us he sustained non-life-threatening injuries.
Happening tomorrow, the jury in the double murder trial of Aaron Hernandez is expected to begin deliberations. In closing arguments today, Hernandez's lawyers insisted there is no forensic evidence linking the former Patriot to the crimes. Prosecutors argue the evidence against Hernandez is overwhelming.
New details tonight as the Danvers Historical Society decides not to sell a Revolutionary War-era house. The historic Major General Putnam was the center of a heated debate, as we told you earlier on in the evening, as the society says the house is too expensive to keep up, but Putnam's family gifted that house and says the society wouldn't give it back to them. Up next, emotional testimony from a young woman who lost her arm in a boating accident.
Her message from the stand to a man preparing to plead guilty in the case. Plus this.
A dash cam can provide evidence and be used by an insurance company to prove that you weren't liable.
We are looking at the growing popularity of dash cams, why more and more consumers are getting them for their cars, and what kind might be best for you.
And cashing in, how some people spent the evening learning the tricks of the pot trade. NBC Boston tonight, back in 60 seconds.